this talk. And by only me person, I mean literally the and only person. Schaefer himself didn't even turn up to it because everybody else in the conference told him what a terrible, terrible idea it was. You can't possibly do Agile with infrastructure. Give up, go and see a different session instead. They didn't manage to catch up with each other. They chatted in the hallway, and they started a Google group called the Agile System Administrators Group on Google. And this began to get a really big following. Actually, there are several hundred people on there all talking about how can we do Agile for infrastructure. And then 10 deploys a day happened. And this completely ignited everything. And Patrick DeBroil was watching on the live feed. He wasn't there. And what he said was, on Twitter or something, he said, wow, I really wish I was there in person. This is awesome. And somebody pointed out to him, well, fine, if you think it's so awesome, start your own conference about it. So that talk happened in June. The first DevOps days was in October. And that event, people from all over the world had caught on to this really big thing, ops and dev collaborating to be able to get to a point where we can deploy 10 times a day. So that we can actually do Agile for real with servers. I've not got my thinking yet, so I need to remember what comes next. I think the thing that came next was a few years later, a guy wrote, so after DevOps guys, the DevOps days hashtag was a little bit too long, and that's where the word DevOps comes, because it means that when you've only got 140 characters, chopping out 4 gives you a little bit more real estate. And then a few years later, a guy called Gene King wrote the Phoenix Project, which kind of became the library for this, the Bible for this whole movement. Who has read the Phoenix Project? Okay, your homework is to go and read. Has anybody read the Phoenix Project? Yeah, Dev or DBA?
Product manager.
Project, you don't get points. I'm kidding, I apologize. But really you don't. It is developers versus DBAs.
Okay, more developers.
More developer, okay. Nominating the points for the developers. What are we up to? 2-0 for developers? I think it's a bit unfair because it feels like it's mostly a dev crowd. So, and also the DBAs are sitting in the corner making sure the servers don't fall over. So the Phoenix Project is a really, really cool book, and all of you should read it. So how many people like reading IT books that are like this long and can be written on a pamphlet? I'm not awarding any points for that. Most IT books could be distilled into 2 or 3 blog posts, right? And we'll all get on a lot better. But this book is really cool because it's an experience report, but it's actually a satire of a development house. You've got all the typical stereotypes of all the people you see there. You've got the developers that come in jeans and a t-shirt. You've got the DBA who's just angry. You've got the marketing person who's absolutely awful. And as you read the book, you will find yourself. Okay, all of these characters are complete stereotypes, and they're all in many ways awful. Apart from one who's like the lead character, who's a DevOps cool guy, which none of you are that guy. Okay, you're all one of the other people. And that's, when I read this book, what made me think differently about what I did. Because I was reading a book, laughing very, very heavily about the jokes coming out of it, and realizing it's funny because it's true, and I'm the butt of many of these jokes. So read that book, it's hilarious, and if you don't like the idea of reading an experience story, which is actually a Nicky take, because like the value of experience reports when they're fictional kind of is a little bit lost, I wrote a blog post which will have gone out on the Twitter feed. I can't remember what time I sent it out, but probably about now. That detailed a very, very similar project to the project in the Phoenix Project, and how actually many of the lessons of that book are entirely true. And I drew a lot of parallels between what we did when I was working at Redgate and the project in question. So what are some of the main teachings of that book in the DevOps movement in general? Well, in this, there's a blog post, this one here, by Gene Kim, where he helps to actually define what this whole movement and what this whole buzz is all about. So the first thing is systems thinking. Okay? You typically have a dev team, you have an ops team, dev team optimized for dev, ops team optimized for ops, and stuff gets thrown over the wall and it breaks. Right? As developers, we like to work in a certain way. As DBAs, we like to work in a certain way. And we're very, very good at doing what we do, but as soon as we have to work with anybody else, it doesn't tend to work very well. Who likes coordinating with the team on the other side of the fence? I'm not going to award you too many points. You have quite a lot of points from that part of the room over there. Not very many people. It's frustrating, right? As a developer, when you have to ask the DBA for something, First of all, you have to probably walk into another building somewhere, because they're always in a different building or miles away, and then you actually ask them, and they always say no. And as DBAs, you don't like working with developers because they're stupid, right? They break stuff. They don't understand the server. DBAs are afraid to laugh now because they know they're outnumbered. So what systems thinking about is about saying, look, actually, you know what? Let's cut the bad stuff. We need to actually work together here. We need to optimize. Like, our businesses require us to deliver the data requirements of our business at a reasonable rate in a timely fashion without breaking stuff, right? That is fundamentally what we're here to do. And developers and DBAs, I'm sorry, you're both part of that. You may have slightly different roles within that process, but you are working together to deliver the data requirements to your business. You have to work together. And that means you need to optimize for the whole. You need to work together, and you need to sometimes do stuff. DBAs, you need to understand how source control works so that you can work more effectively with developers. Developers, you need to understand that the reasons why DBAs need to take certain precautions and make certain checks before they can deploy to production. You need to be able to work together on those things. Okay? Ideally, set up some sort of automated process after consulting with each other so both developers and DBAs can get involved in the discussion. Okay? Having our code and source control, properly testing it, properly automated it, in a fully automated, visual way that everybody can see, everybody has access to, everybody has agreed on, you've worked on this together. That's what we want to do. That's just the first part. Lots of people think DevOps is building an automated deployment process, but that's just the first part. The second part is feedback loops. Okay? Once you have got a process where you can easily get your code through to production, then you want to learn from whether that's worked or not, and then do it again, iterating. I do a thing, I learn from it, I iterate. I do a thing, I learn from it, I iterate. And eventually we get to a point where we're doing this really, really quickly. We are getting much richer information back from the real world thing that lives out in the real world from our customers. They're telling us whether they like the thing, whether they didn't like the thing, what they wanted instead. And then we're able to much more quickly build the thing that's more tailored to what we actually want to achieve. We're building a culture that actually is about automating something, testing something, getting some data back. We're data professionals, right? We want to be basing our decisions and our learning off the data that we can achieve, ideally, from the real world. Another way to think about this is CALMS. So this is another phrase that gets bandied about in DevOps circles, CALMS. Culture, automation, lean, metrics sharing. Okay? The first thing we need is a culture where people are communicating, where we don't have siloed teams. We have dev and ops, and by ops, in this case, with data professionals, I typically mean devs and DBAs, but not exclusively. Okay? We need to have a culture where we're working together. We're open with each other. We're not sitting in our various different offices and throwing sticks over the fence at each other. We're working together to solve problems. We're going to be automating the process of getting from dev through to production. Because you know what? There are some tasks that humans are good at, and there are some tasks that computers are good at. If I asked you to multiply two 5-figure numbers together in your head, would you be able to give me an answer like that? Most people wouldn't be able to. There's probably one genius in here somewhere that's going to ruin my argument, but most people can't do that, at least not reliably. Calculators can. There's a logic to it, and computers are great at doing regular automated tasks in a reliable way, the same way every single time, consistently, quickly. Humans are terrible at that stuff. Humans are rubbish. How many people have opened up a script in Management Studio and executed it against the wrong server? How many people have connected to the correct server and executed it and then realized they actually had a particular part of it highlighted at the top and not the whole thing? Humans are terrible at executing scripts. Automated processes are really good at executing scripts in the same way, reliably, every single time. Okay? Now, there are people that will say, well, like, to make a mistake on production is human, but to automate it to 1,000 servers is DevOps. Okay? And there is an argument, and there is a point to that. Okay? Humans make the decisions about when we do things, but we don't actually press a button ourselves. Computers do that for us. Okay? There's a lot of people getting scared about where humans live in a DevOps world because it's all automated, it's all computers. Actually, no, it's very, very human. DevOps is fundamentally about humans working together and making decisions together and learning together. It's just we're not turning the handle and doing the grind work anymore. We let computers do that so we can actually get on. We don't sit there and do long division by hand anymore. No, we use calculators for that. Okay. And this is the same thing. There's a bunch of other stuff as well, but the sharing is a good one. How many people? How many people have like automated tests going on in their environments? You guys at the back end are doing really well. A few other people, good. How many of you have that like displayed on a nice big monitor so everybody can see it?
Yep, there's one here.
There's one here. What? Oh wow! Is that like is that reporting on whether or not stuff's working? That's fantastic. Okay, who put that together? DevOps.
Chief software.
Software architect did that in his home shop.
Software
No, it was a developer. Let's say.
Developer. Okay, 5 points to developers. That's that sort of stuff right there. That's sharing. That's saying that you're looking up there and you can presumably that's what running off your build server or something and telling you.
There's a translation over here, if you can see on the poster. And it's a
Right.
tool branch, let's say, and it's single code. That's what it means.
Okay, this is what I'm talking about right here. Okay, I love this. You're sharing the results. We can take knowledge from that. Okay. Without that, you'd have come into the office and you wouldn't know whether your code is starting in a broken state. You look at that and you can get some sort of idea from that. It's fantastic.
Someone is busy now, I think.
You know what I'm talking about. Problem is databases are hard, right? Like I can talk all about source control, and I can talk all about automated testing, and I can talk all about automating your deployments, but databases are hard. Okay? Why are databases hard? Databases are hard basically because you've got data to worry about. That sounds like an obvious statement, but don't tell anybody I said this to the DevOps crowd, the .NET guys, that actually deploying applications and web apps, it's easy. Okay, you just copy across the binaries and point IIS to the new location. Done. Anybody with a decent PowerShell scripting ability can do that. It's not hard. Databases are hard because you have to worry about the data. I can't just drop the production database and deploy the new schema because there is data there that I will lose. The DBAs understood that, but a few developers might not. Sorry. Okay. When we're trying to do DevOps for databases, you need to think about both the state that you want to get to and also how you're going to get there. You need to think about both the model that you're aiming for and the migration, which is twice as hard. You can't just redeploy the model, you actually have to think about the upgrade script that's going to get you there. I'll come on to that in a bit. Meet Farm Credit Services of America. A couple of years ago, while I was working for Redgate, I went to visit them. 100, so what these guys, how many of you have been to America? How many of you have heard of America? Okay. On one side of America, there's like a thin line of humans. And on the other side of America, there's a thin line of humans. And in the middle, you've got fields. Okay? That's basically the geography of America. You fly, has anybody ever flown over like the Dakotas or Idaho or any of those middle bits in America, which you think, I learned a thing while I did this for a week. You know the grid system in cities? That starts in fields. Like that started when initially, like the Europeans went over and they said, right, how are we going to chop up this land? Right, you can have that square mile, you can have that square mile. That's literally how they did it. And then it just turned into 8 square miles when you got to the cities. That's exactly how the grid system started. It started in fields. Okay, and you see that when you fly over mid-America because it's just mile after mile after mile of Tetris. So anyway, what these guys do, Farm Credit Services of America, there's roughly 100 people in their IT team, and they manage the farmers in America get various tax credits. There are various kind of tax legal structures in place to make sure that farmers get a good wage. So as you can imagine, like in the middle of America, that's basically the main business, which means there's a lot of money in this, and it's highly regulated financial industry. Roughly 100 developers, IT people in the team with various different roles. And the guy on the left here is a guy called John Morehouse. He's a SQL Pass regional mentor in a lot of these farming states in the middle of America. Probably the area that he's a regional mentor for is probably about half the size of Europe, but it's just farms. And moving in from them, you've got systems architect, the head of the dev team, me and my colleague, and then the head of the DBA team. And they called us in because basically they had 100 different teams, 100 different people split into 14 teams, all doing development differently. Some people had source control, some people didn't. The people that did do source control were doing it in lots of different ways. Some of them were using different tools. Some of them were using Git, some Subversion, some GFS. And then what would happen is I'd give John Morehouse here, they'd give him a script, or a DAP pack, or a NuGet package, or some other thing that he was supposed to use to deploy the database, and he'll be surprised today, well, that's 2 weeks' work. Can you deploy that? You've got 2 hours. How many people here can review 2 weeks' worth of work from an entire development team and say with confidence, yeah, I'm happy to run that against production? To the live system that manages all the farm credits to all of the farmers in Middle America. Doesn't work very well. So he called us in to see if we can bring some order to this madness. What we did is we standardized, basically we came up with this diagram at the back. We're standing in front of this diagram at the back. We standardized our source control processes, built an automated process to actually build and test that code, and a few years on, they deploy much more quickly and much more reliably. This is that build pipeline that I'm talking about, and that's what I want to talk to you about today, and I want to show you just a quick example of how you might do it. But mainly I want to get you thinking that this is the process that you need to go. These are the problems that you really do need to be thinking about. How are we going to manage the source control? How are we going to automate the build process? How are we going to deploy that out to the various other environments that we have? If you want to read more about it, this guy here, Bob Walker, he wrote a really nice post about the visit. So feel free to go and read that. So as I say, we're going to put our stuff in source control. We're going to run automated builds on it. We're going to run automated tests. We're going to deploy that to the various different environments. Now the problem is there's more than one way to. Okay, so when I put this slide together,
you could have used an uglier cat.
Funny you should say that. When I first put it together, I used a picture of my own cat. It was prettier, but when I showed it to my wife, she made me change it. She also made me correct the words. But the point is basically there are 2 ways we can go about solving this problem. Okay? Either we can think about it in a migrations way. We can think about the upgrade script. The thing we put into source control is the upgrade script. As a developer, I write an upgrade script. I want it to be deployed against production. I stick it into source control. Then we probably create some sort of migration log on the production table. We have a list of upgrade scripts provided by each of my developers. And then I have some sort of automated process that says, right, where are you up to? Okay, you're up to version 7. Good, here's 8, 9, 10. Run them in order. Good. Automated. Same script every time. Reliable way. Far, far more reliable than many humans do it. The other way of doing it is thinking about the state, the model. Who here has used Visual Studio database projects? Or Redgate SQL Source Control, or SSDT, or any of those lovely things? Okay. Not a very large number of people. For those of you that have, basically it takes your database and converts it kind of into a project file in Visual Studio, and it defines this is what your stored procedures look like, this is what the tables look like, this is what the functions look like, and so on. It defines the version of the database that you want to end up with, and then it lets software work out the script. It will use Microsoft stuff, it will use Visual Studio's diff compare, if you use Redgate stuff, Redgate SQL compare to work out the differences. Whatever you're using, it will use software to generate the upgrade script at deployment time. Now, different people have different opinions about this. There are those that think the migrations way of working is better, and there are those that think that the state-based way of working is better, and almost everybody has a very, very strong opinion. It always makes quotes look smarter if you put them in like quotation marks. You can kind of say it was somebody else's fault, and they're really smart, they know what they're talking about. Anyway, so there's nothing more reliable than keeping track of exactly the scripts you intend to run and running them without trying to compare state and guess. Okay? This guy thinks the most reliable way to do DevOps databases is to keep track of the upgrade scripts and run them. Simple, straightforward, effective. He's right. That was Paul Stavel. He created Octopus Deploy. Who here has heard of Octopus Deploy? A few people. It's a release management tool for .NET. It's basically a tool that helps you automate your deployments. It's basically a fancy PowerShell scheduler, but it's really effective. Somebody else said as soon as you have multiple changes to a single aspect of an object, ordering and the ability to detect which change needs to be made gets very complicated. He's correct as well. Okay? If we all write one upgrade script and we put it into source control, okay, who here has done managed deployments before? It's like the order in which you deploy the various different objects is important, right? Tables first, and views, and so on. And also, what if two of us have changed the same stored procedure? If we've both written alter statements, the last one wins. So I'm sorry about the but I just don't remember what to do. Okay. So once you have lots and lots and lots of upgrade scripts, that actually, while it sounds trivial and straightforward, the upgrade scripts and source control and running the sequence, actually it can get quite complicated as you step. That was, oh, I pressed the wrong button. There we are. That was Gert Drapers. He's a Microsoft guy, the guy who built Datadog, which is what later became Visual Studio Database Projects and SSD2. I wrote a blog post that basically says, hey, calm down, both work, all right? But there are basically pros and cons to each approach. If you'd like to read more about the pros and cons, go read my blog post or any of the angry people who responded to it saying, no, I'm right, no, I'm right. The way I'm going to demonstrate that both of these work is to carry out the same task. Okay. Now I've got like a trader. In England, we have trustedtrader.com. I don't know what you have over here. It's like a price comparison website for all the plumbers and cleaners and things in my area. And you go and you say, I want a plumber, please, who's near me. There's a reasonable price that's being reviewed. So I've got a website a bit like that. And I've got a table of kitten trainers in my area. And I've got two very important changes that need to be made. One is somebody wants to add a column to the kitten trainers table that defines whether or not that particular trainer accepts tiger cubs. It was really, really important for a lot of the people in London. They're strange like that. And we also need to create a view kitten trainers near London because, like, London's the most important city. Sorry. Oh, I've got no idea how I'm going to do this now. No, that's not going to work. So this is my kitten trainers table, and I'm going to write a new query now. Okay, I wrote it earlier. This is absolutely revolutionary code, by the way. You should be taking like screenshots because this is going to change your life, the world. The syntax I've used here. Can everybody see the screen? Everybody, probably a good thing. Let's see if we can do something about that. Right, so for those of you that don't know, what this is an alter table statement. No, I'm kidding. So I'm just adding a column and I'm creating a new view. That's the task that I was asked to achieve. So I'm going to do that. I really should have brought a mouse up now. So as you can see, I've made those changes against two databases. First of all, awesome traders _core state, and also awesome traders _ migrations. My keyboard will work. So I've made my changes against both the databases, and now I want to commit these to source control in a sensible way, and then I want to start running automated builds and deployments and things. So how am I doing for time? 20 minutes, okay. So first of all, let's do it in a state-based way. Now, I used to work for Redgate. These are the tools I know. Other tools are available. The important thing here is the concept, not the software that I'm using, etc. But I'm just going to use said software tool to generate me a list of all the differences that I've made, and I can see here that there's a difference in the kitten trainers table. I've added the column, and I've got the new view there. I can write some comment. Leaving good comments is really, really, really important, by the way. So I'm going to leave a comment there, and I'm going to commit that. Now that's committed to a local Git repository. If I was to, where enough did I put that Git repository? If I was to open up that repository, I'll be able to show you the format of the various things. So I've got a repository here. It's split up my database into various different directories based on new types of objects. And here, for example, we have the kitten trainers table, and that is, and that's how we're saving the table statement and source control. Straightforward, create table. Okay. We can read that. We can understand exactly what that table looks like. We've now taken a database object and scripted it out to a file format that I can put into source control. As it happens, the software tool that I'm using is stuck there to Git. And as a result, if I go and look in TeamCity, TeamCity is an example of a CI server. Other tools are available. If I was to refresh that, you would see Awesome Traders build. My build finished a few minutes ago. I'll come back to this in a minute, but first of all, I want to show you what I'm going to do about that migrations table. So this migrations table, you'll notice already that there's this migrations log. The Awesome Traders migrations database has a migrations log table on it. That keeps a track of all the scripts that have been run so far. So at the moment, I've not got many. What I'm going to do now is go into a tool called ReadyRoll. This is a plugin to Visual Studio. As it happens, it's also by my previous employer. I no longer work there. I do not take royalties. Other tools are available. But what this tool is going to do is it's going to, again, show me the various changes that I've made. If you look up here, you'll see the format of this project is something a bit different. Okay. So we've got a list of scripts that get run in order, and that's how we define the state of our database here. If I was to import this into the project, note that in the top right corner there are currently 2 scripts. Well, in a minute, once it's generated that, we've now got 3 scripts. It's added a new script to source control, and crucially, if we take a look at what's included in this script, it's not 1 script per object, it's 1 script per change. And the change here, if we take a look, we have an alter table. Okay, we're defining the change rather than the state we want to get to, and then we can run the scripts in sequence. So I've now changed the project. I can commit this to source control. It's just a project. It's just a basic Visual Studio project. So I commit that to source control, write some comment. And commit. And now if I open up TeamCity a little bit more quickly this time, if I just do a refresh, what we'll see, how many people have used a continuous integration server before? Okay, quite a lot of you. How many people haven't? It's okay, we're friends-ish. So what a continuous integration tool basically does is I define various projects. So you can see I've got 2 projects here, Awesome Traders State and Awesome Traders Migrations. You can see Awesome Traders Migrations has just started doing something. Okay. When you're setting up a CI server, there are basically 3 things you need to configure. Where is my stuff? What am I going to do with it? And when am I going to do that? Okay. Where is my stuff? Where is my source control? So I'm going to tell TeamCity where my repository is. I happen to use Git. As I say, other tools are available. You can do this with TFS, you can do this with Subversion, whatever. You can use Jenkins. So there's many ways you can do this. But basically, your CI server, you say, where is my source code? Then what am I going to do with it? Typically, you're going to run some sort of script, some sort of PowerShell script or whatever, to actually execute some changes. Now, in this case, I'm using a plugin of the particular vendor product I've used to handle this stuff. There are various different tools out there that can help you do it. If you want some help picking one, then come see me afterwards. But this is going to carry out a build. So what it's going to do is it's going to take my source code and build the database from scratch. A lot of DBAs get scared at this point. Hey, what, you're building databases? You need to consult me first. No, you don't. Okay? Set up an integration server where they can just build database, throw it away. Build database, throw away database. Yes, build database, throw it away. The point of this is so that developers can get to understand their source code doesn't even work. Before they even hand it to the DBA, they're just going to carry out their basic set of tests first. Okay. I don't really have time to show you any unit testing today, but there are awesome unit test frameworks like T-SQL-T, SQL Unit, TST. You can also wrap unit tests. How many people here have written unit tests before? Okay. And how many of those people have done it for SQL Server? Exactly. Okay. Most of you would not hire a .NET developer that didn't believe in writing tests. Am I correct? Yeah, you wouldn't hire them. Like, if they came up to you and said, tests? I don't need to write tests. I don't make mistakes. So why do we think we can get away without writing tests for our SQL? How many people have stored procedures in their databases? Not very many. How many people don't have stored procedures in their databases? Okay, there's a significant difference between like, seriously, how many people have stored procedures and functions and things in their databases? Yeah? Okay. And you haven't written tests for that? Do you ever break those stored procedures? Are you confident none of them are broken? In production. This is why we write tests. Okay? Do you ever change something on your database and something you haven't expected breaks? Do you always find out about that right away, or do you find out about that 2 weeks after you deploy to production and suddenly your customer is pulling their hair out because the thing that used to work isn't working anymore? Yeah, that's why we write tests, so that we can find out immediately when something is broken. Anyway, I don't have time to show you that today, but absolutely start looking into the various different unit testing frameworks that are available. Once we have built our stuff, there's then a whole class of software called release management tools. Some people do this from their CI server. This has already been deployed to the, my changes have already been deployed to my integration database. If you don't believe me, let's take a look at the integration databases. Awesome Traders integration, programmability, store procedures. No, not store procedures because I don't have any. Tables, kit trainers, and columns. There you are, except Tiger Cubs. Okay? So my changes have already been deployed out to an integration environment. In an ideal world, every developer has their own database for doing their dev, and then it all gets pushed out to like a shared dev integration environment where you can do the tests that need production-like environments. However, I have not yet deployed to my, did I call it production in this example? I think I may have done. I don't see it there. I think it's on another instance because I figured I would make this look like a real world VM that I'm running my entire infrastructure off. And connect to the prod instance, and there we are. We have migration state and migrations tables. Tables. That's cool. Yeah. Okay. So I do not yet have the Tiger Cubs column on beacons and tables, on programmable objects. There. Okay, so we do not yet have Tiger Cubs in production. If I wanted to deploy those to production, however, you know what I said about we don't do this manually? I'm not going to go in there and run the script manually. I can use my, by the way, brilliant way of sharing what code is in which location. How many people know which version of the code is in each one of their environments right now? How many people don't? You're the only one. I think there are probably a few more people that don't know exactly which version of the code is in each one of their environments at the moment. It's awesome if there's just like a tool that everybody has access to that they can just go and see. And if I wanted to, I can come in here, click a button. Would I like to deploy that to production? Why, yes, I would, please. Yes, let's deploy that now. Now, what this is going to do is basically going to go and look at that migrations log table on the production database and then run all the remaining scripts. I could go into the details about how to do that, but people get funny about doing demos of vendor products at sessions like this, and basically you can't do this without using some tools. So if you want a proper demo, come find me afterwards and I'll show you exactly how it all works. Also, I only have so certain amount of time to do this. I can do this as well with the state-based one. No, not create release. I pressed the wrong button. Let's click on that version and promote that to production. And now this one, because it's got a particular version of the database it is aware of. That's what it's got from source control. What it's going to do this time is going to use some software to generate an upgrade script, and then it's going to give me an opportunity to review it. Ooh, that was quick. So I can take a look at the differences. Yes. So I can take a look at the differences. I have the modified object. I have the new object. I have a script here. I don't happen to have any warnings. Yeah, I'm happy with all of that. I've eyeballed it. That means it's good. I'm going to assign it to me. Yes, me. Yeah, let's say OK. And proceed. And has anybody ever asked who approved that deployment? Who approved this deployment? Who agreed to put that there? Well, it's here in the logs. So once that has completed successfully, that's completed successfully. All it's done is run the upgrade script on approved. If I come back down here on the migrations table, if I refresh that, I now have a new column, except tiger cubs, and on the state database, I have a new column, except tiger cubs. So what I'm saying is both work. Oh, now the things are on top of each other. There we are. Phew, that's the last demo I'm going to do today. I'm kind of relieved. So both work. Also, by the way, both suck in different ways. And whichever approach you take, it is going to burn your face off one way or the other. So do go and read my blog post about which way is better. Because, as I mentioned, if you've got lots and lots of upgrade scripts, that becomes a pain to manage, but it's really easy to automate. And if you let software work out the upgrade scripts all the time, it's really easy to do development work, but then the problems of automation become a bit harder. I do have if you go read that blog post, there's another talk that I did that spent like an hour going into the differences between the two approaches and that's suited to different sorts of organizations. Oh yeah, I was going to give you a little bit of warning before I show this slide. So where do DBAs now live in the world of DevOps? For the record, I don't believe this. There's a growing number of people that do. Now that you don't need to do all the server administration because it's all in Azure, right? So you're not managed, so you don't have to administer your own server. That's what the books say. Now that you don't need to manage the deployments yourself. Okay. What's left for DBAs to do? Now, my view is that there is a lot left for DBAs to do. Because actually, somebody has to be responsible for how you manage your data structures, and the DBAs are the people with specialist knowledge in that area. And also, they're the people that should be responsible for setting this stuff up. Okay. There are a growing number of people that don't think they're in the space of DBA anymore. One of the reasons for that is because you shouldn't be using relational databases, right? Because you can't do DevOps with relational databases. They're slow, archaic things. We should all be going NoSQL. Yay. Maybe. As much as the relational database market is shrinking compared to as a portion of the whole data market, it is actually growing in on of its own right. There is a space for relational data, whether or not we're in a NoSQL world. But he makes some valid points. And one of the reasons why people are getting frustrated with DBAs is because they say no. Your business, the business people in your business and the dev people in your business are saying we want to go faster, we want to ship more frequently. That is the business requirement. And I'm sorry, DBA, you are there to deliver on the business requirement. Okay? And by the way, database developers, this goes for you as well, because sometimes we're just as bad. Okay? People get frustrated when DBAs say no all the time. It's why they move to other data platforms, because they believe they can deliver them much more frequently. Okay? They will have other problems that they've not worked out yet if they move away from good old traditional SQL Server. But there is this growing feeling. Okay? Now, I really like the approach that George Takes has taken. He's someone I used to work with. I helped him set up a pipeline a lot like this. He started a blog called the DevOps DBA. He said, actually, no. One of the mantras of continuous delivery in DevOps is if it's hard, do it often. If it's hard, you need to learn how to get good at something. You need to learn how to automate. That's kind of that's the bottleneck right there. Okay? If it's hard, do it often. And databases are hard. So there is a massive need for data professionals who can deliver updates frequently in an agile manner, rather than in a slow waterfall manner where stuff goes wrong. Okay? There's a real space for them, and I mean, he got a bit of an argument with people on his team who didn't believe there was any such thing as a DevOps DBA. But these are the things you need to be adopting. So in summary, how am I doing for time? Ooh, pretty much bang on, go me. So in summary, as a data professional, 2016 onwards, don't be the bottleneck. When somebody says we need to do a thing, don't be the person who says, no, not yet, we're not ready. Don't be the person who says, no, you can't do that because complicated reasons that people don't understand. Okay? Who has to deal with that? We're going to embrace cooperation. We're not going to be siloed dev and DBA teams anymore. We are going to be one data team, or even one software team, or one business. Okay? We're going to join the conversation with the rest of the business and the other functions around us, and we're going to work with them to be able to implement a pipeline like this so that we can actually deliver the updates that we need to in the fashion that we need to. We're going to learn the new technologies that are available to help us do this. How many people know Git? How many people are using Git? Okay, I promise you that in 5 years' time, if you will all have used Git at some point, get to know it. It's complicated as hell, by the way, if you're not used to it. So it takes some learning time. It's going to take you a bit of time to get good at it. Who uses packaging frameworks like NuGet and stuff? Yeah, a few people. They're basically fancy zip files with version numbers, but it's handy to get used to them because you can use them to actually package up your code and deploy it in a repeatable fashion. How many people here use PowerShell? Anybody that wants to do automation on the Windows platform needs to learn PowerShell. It is the automation language. It is the scripting language of Windows. Okay? If you're going to set up automation, which you are at some point in the next few years, because if you're not, then you're the guy who's still doing long division manually. Okay? You are going to be using automation. The language you're going to use it to do it is PowerShell. So you're going to make sure that on your CVs, you know how to use PowerShell. Okay? Also, it would be remiss to say that relational SQL Server databases is everything Microsoft nowadays. Like, you know that there's a whole of data platform there available to you now. If you've ever seen any talks by Microsoft recently, they've said, yeah, the SQL Server, 2016 is really cool. And also, look at all the other stuff. BI stuff, Azure, there's so much there. Data Lake, there's so much there that is growing beyond relational SQL Server. So you're going to be learning those, and you're going to be using a lot of the tools that come with that, kind of the power of the cloud to be able to spin stuff up automatically to enable you to spin up test environments really quickly, rather than having to wait 3 months to deliver a test environment for that developer who just can't test their code yet because they're waiting for you to deliver that environment. You're going to learn how to be able to use these new technologies effectively. When you are designing your databases, you are not just going to design for performance, scalability, and all the things that you like to design for. You're not just going to design for DR when you're thinking about how secure your databases are. You're going to be thinking about deployability and testability. How many people here actively think about deployability and testability when they're designing their databases? Developer or DBA? Mixed. DevOps. And be careful with the word no. I'm not saying don't use it. I'm saying don't use it all the time. And work out how you can make things work and work together with the business. Thanks.